Today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the Malone AirFlow2 Roof Rack here on our 2015 Toyota 4Runner. So adding a roof rack to your 4Runner, it's going to be a great idea because it's going to make your vehicle that much more versatile. Now there's actually a number of different things we can use a roof rack for. If we wanted to hit the trails, we could easily throw a couple bikes up here, or if we just wanted to free up some space inside the vehicle for our family on those long road trips, we could easily attach either a roof mounted cargo box or cargo carrier. So this particular roof rack here has what's known as Aero shaped crossbars. So there's a couple different crossbar types on the market. We have the square crossbars, which are a little bit older, the round crossbars, and then the Aero, and there's a few other odd ones, but those are the main three. The Aero bars, in my opinion, are the best because they're going to provide us with the least amount of wind noise. If you guys have ever been out on the highway with a square bar roof rack, you know those things can get pretty noisy. So with these Aero shaped bars here, they really do a great job of cutting down on that wind noise. You can kind of think of these like an airplane wing in regards to how they reduce drag. So they're going to give you the best overall aerodynamics. So in regards to capacity, it's going to be 165 pounds evenly distributed across both crossbars. So that's plenty of room to throw pretty much anything you want up here. So really shouldn't be any limitations as far as the weight capacity goes. So there are actually two different configurations here of this roof rack. We have a version with the 58-inch long crossbars, which is what you see here. We also have a version with 50-inch long crossbars. Now they're both going to work great here on this 4Runner. The correct one for you is really going to come down to what we're going to be using them for. If you're really trying to throw as much stuff as you can up here, such as several kayaks, a couple bikes, then you're going to want to opt for these longer crossbars. They make it a little bit easier to load, and we obviously have more space. Now on the contrary, the 50-inch bars, they look a little bit sleeker since we don't have as much overhang on either side. Those are going to be great if you're just using the roof rack for like a cargo box or a single cargo basket. If we're really just going to be throwing one or two things up here, then you can probably get away with these shorter bars that look a little bit better. But if you want to maximize capacity and really be able to throw as much stuff as you want up here, then you're going to want to opt for the longer 58-inch crossbars, which is what we have shown here. So in regards to accessory compatibility, you're really going to be able to use pretty much any accessory you want. These Aero-shaped crossbars are a pretty industry standard shape, and the dimensions also are an industry standard as well. So you shouldn't have any problem whatsoever with the wraparound clamps that most accessories use. I would like to point out that if we look on the end of the end cap, there's a little door here. And if we move that down, we can actually see there's going to be a built-in channel system in this crossbar. This is sort of a newer design. A lot of the rooftop cargo carriers and a lot of other new accessories now come with T-bolts that mount into the crossbar channels. And this just make it a little bit easier than the wraparound clamp. So if you have a particular accessory with that feature, you're going to be able to utilize it here with this roof rack. So you will notice on each of our 4 towers here, we have a built-in lock core. And this is going to all use the same key, so you don't have to worry about keeping multiple keys. But basically, this is just going to provide a nice added level of security here of a roof rack. We don't have to worry about anyone coming up and stealing this off our vehicle. So the first step of your installation, you're going to take your crossbar assembly here. We're just going to simply go ahead and set it on the vehicle. Make sure the towers here are loose within the crossbar so we can adjust them as needed for the rails on our vehicle. Now, one thing you do want to keep in mind when setting up your crossbars here is that we need to pay attention to the spread. And what that means is the distance from the center of the front crossbar to the center of the rear crossbar. And the reason you need to pay attention to that is certain carriers are going to require a certain distance between those two. So just make sure you check the instructions of the accessories you're going to be using with this roof rack to make sure the spread that you set now is going to be in line with those specifications. So once we have both of our crossbars about where we want them, what we're going to do is we're going to take our included key here and we're going to remove the end caps from both of the towers. Now on one of these sides, the end cap is going to have a built-in tool. The tool is going to be used to tighten the clamps within the tower. So as you can see there, that's that tool we were talking about. Now you can actually choose which location you want the tool to be on. I like to put them both on the driver's side just so I know where it's going to be when I'm going to use them. So you could easily swap them between sides. But now that we have the tool, what we're going to do is, number one, if the clamps don't go around the side railings on the vehicle, you're going to need to use this Allen key tool and loosen the Allen bolt inside the towers there. You're going to need to loosen it until the clamps open up enough that they can drop down onto the side railing. But once that's done, we're pretty much just going to do that same thing in reverse to tighten them. Now you want to be careful when you're tightening. There isn't any sort of torque spec. You don't want to tighten it too much though, because that could risk deform the railing or damaging the mechanism inside the tower. So what I recommend is just tighten it a couple turns here, and then we can check tightness usually by feel. You should start to feel some resistance when you get them tight enough, but what I'm going to do is just go ahead and grab onto the crossbar assembly and try to move it back and forth. And when we don't have any movement, we know it's nice and snug. Now keep in mind, before we start tightening these down, you do want to make sure that you have the correct amount of overhang, or in other words, that the overhang is going to be equal. So if you wanted to, you could get out your tape measure from the end of the tower to the face of the crossbar, or we could just sort of take a few steps back from the vehicle and just sort of do this by eye. There's not an exact science to this, just make sure it's relatively even on both sides. But with that being said, we can go ahead and tighten down that Allen bolt to draw the clamps together to secure the rack to the vehicle. So this side is pretty much good. I'm going to give it a couple more turns here. But as we can see here, if we shake it, it's nice and snug. So I'm going to call this side good. Jump over to the other side and just repeat those same few steps. Now I would like to point out that in regards to the crossbars, it doesn't matter which goes in the front, which goes in the rear. You do, however, want to make sure that the fat part of the bar is facing the front of the vehicle. Sort of think of it like an airplane wing, if you will. That's an easy way to remember it. Now, once we get both sides tight, we'll just simply take our end caps, place them into the towers, and lock it to secure them in place. But that's going to do it today for our look and installation at the Malone AirFlow2 Roof Rack here on our 2015 Toyota 4Runner.